Alright, students, this is how to use a macro in Excel. The first thing we have to do is turn the macros on. We have to find out how to do that. And the easiest way to do that is to go up to the Help button and click on the Help button to get the Help search features right here. And we go Turn on Macros. And this will give us quite a bit of information about macros, and it turns out it looks like right here, enable or disable macros in Office documents is exactly what we want to find out how to do. So I'll double click on that, and as we read down here, we go past the tags. It says what is a macro and what is the security risk. So they define macros as it automates frequently used tasks. Basically, if you do something repetitively on a spreadsheet often enough, you can set up a macro to memorize the keystrokes and it will do it automatically. It's a very useful tool. They are created with Visual Basic and they're written by software developers. So if you write a macro, you're a software developer. Some macros pose a potential security risk. They can be spread as a virus on your computer, and that's why Microsoft Office turns off macros, so they're not enabled. So the application that we're going to use this on is Excel, so I'm going to click on Excel, and right here are the instructions for turning on macros or turning them off in Excel. First instruction says click on the Microsoft Office button. After that, we click on Excel options. Then we click on Trust Center. Once that opens, we click on Trust Center Settings. And that opens up another window. And then we click on Macro Settings. So it's a 5-layer deep instruction here. And usually what happens on that is I forget the path. They're telling us the path. So I'm going to shrink this so if I get lost I can just call it back up. So that help feature is sitting down on my as a hotkey on the bottom of the computer, and let's do the first one. This is the Office button. I'll click on that, and somewhere here is Excel options. Can you see where it is? Maybe if I it changes a lot of things, so it's not in there. Let's go back and here's print, here's prepare. You know something? Here it is right down here at the bottom. It says Excel options, so I'll click on that. And here are the Excel options. And as we look down here, here is the Trust Center. I'll click on that, and the windows change now. After Trust Center, we're supposed to go to Trust Center Settings. And then we need to go to Macro Settings. And here is the radio button has been selected for disable all macros. So we couldn't write a macro or run it if we wanted to because they're all disabled. So we're going to go down here where it says enable all macros. We will tell it OK, and we'll OK it a second time, and now macros are turned on. Now you'll notice that my window is for Excel 2007. You may have the newer version. Regardless of that, somewhere if you go to help, it'll tell you how to get to the Trust Center. And my selections that I'm going to do here are what you do in 2007. So you look to do approximately the same thing in 2010 version. We're going to demonstrate macros by varying a parameter for an equation. So we're going to use a very simple equation, such as length times width is equal to area. And I usually have my labels above the cell where I put the data. So say we have a length of 1 and a width of 5. The area would be equal to A4, I'll hit the asterisk key, times B4. And after I've entered the formula, using Excel references to where the data is located, I hit enter, and it calculates the actual value for the area. I also kind of like these centered up, and here is the feature that does center. Alright, now when we vary a parameter, length and width are parameters. Usually you hold one constant and you vary the other. And in this case, I'm not going to change B, I'm just going to change the length. Suppose the length changes to 10 or 100, the area changes. So I'm going to go back to that. I may want some intermediate value, and I don't know, it depends on what the value of the area that pops out. Now, I'm not saying with this formula I can't figure that out in my head, but we're just showing you the process of using a macro and how you actually do it. So what I would do in that case is I would pull down here from 4 to 14, and I want this to be a series that's increment. And I do that by going over to fill, and we're going to fill a series, and it's going to step value of 1. So they all change to 1 through 11. And now at this point I want my area formula to be calculated, and I'm going to pull down, I'm going to grab this little spot here and pull down on it. And it's all 0 because, as you can see, the up in here, that the cell references are incremented as I go down each row, and the constant hasn't been put in yet. So I'm going to copy this down. So I have 5, and now my areas are all filled in, and I can see that as length changes, my area is varying. Now I can always graph this thing, put a graph in here and stuff like that, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a macro that will go from this to this in one step by pressing one key. So it's, again, this is, you wouldn't do this all, for something you use once or twice. It's something that's done repetitively. Okay. So in order to show that this is done, I have to erase what I created, and we go and turn on the macro, and then I do exactly the same steps that I did before, and we'll get the keystrokes memorized. We'll set a shortcut key, and then we'll test that my macro works. So we're going to go find macros. The macros are located in View, all the way over on the right. I click on this, and I can view macros, I can record macros, use relative references. I'm going to just record the macro. So it says here, record a macro. Each of the commands you perform will be saved into the macro so that you can play them back again. Sounds great. So I clicked on that, and my macro name is 1. We're going to change it to demo 1, and the control key is going to be F, and I could write a description, but I'm going to skip that. Now at this point, it's now going to record every one of my keystrokes, and one of the first things I did was I had extended this down. So I'm going to click here, I'm going to pull down. I can pull down to any point, but I'm going to stop at 14. I'm now going to go back to Home, go over to Fill, Series, his step value is 1, I'll tell it OK, and I've completed the first part. For the second part, I pulled down here, and the formula was copied in each one of these. And then I pulled down on this constant, I call it, because it doesn't change, and I get this area completed. Now click off to get rid of the blue. Click click off of it. Now at this point we've recorded all the steps. I have to turn off the macro. So I got to go to View, and this is an important feature. And where it was Start Recording is now Stop Recording. And we're going to hit Stop. And we set a macro. Now, how will we know if this works? Here's how I'm going to test it. I'm going to erase everything I've done, click off of it, and then I'm going to use the Control F button, and there it's completely filled out. Suppose I change this to another number, 5. I'm going to hit Control F. It starts at 5. It doesn't care what my starting point is. And these are the same, and it tells me the area. Suppose I do 15. It winds up at 15, so I can put 16 here, and then I can go Control. I have to enter it first. I have to make that change. Then I can do Control F, and I can now go from 16 to 26. So this is how a macro works at this point.